Breaking tonight, President Trump close to arriving in Japan as he starts his historic visit to Asia. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us. We're keeping an eye on Yokota Air Base in Tokyo, where the President of the United States is due to arrive and address U.S. troops there. We're going to bring that to you when it happens. Also tonight, Congress members Ron DeSantis and Brian Babin are here, as well as Sebastian Gorka and Jason Chaffetz. But first, my opening statement. They lied to us. They said there was nothing to worry about, that the sale of 20% of America's uranium to our enemy, Russia, wasn't really a problem. Nothing to look at here, folks. And after the sale, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission even assured Congress and us that Russia couldn't export any raw nuclear fuel from our shores. So what difference does this make that uranium would leave our shores? I'll tell you what difference it makes. For me, it's personal. You see, in 2012, I was diagnosed with cancer. I didn't talk about it. You didn't know about it. I just did my show every weekend. And in the end, as the chemotherapy treatments progressed, I was on air talking to you without my eyebrows, eyelashes, and wearing a wig. Like so many of us, I was diagnosed and found out I was sick, thanks to the advances of nuclear medicine and the medical isotopes used to create it. Those medical isotopes are the key to identifying and treating disease. They are literally life-saving. I know. So why am I telling you this, and why now? Why? Because uranium is key to nuclear imaging. Last week in my open, I told you Russia wanted our uranium so badly that they started a criminal campaign to get ours. And so began the corruption and the bribery that underlay the Uranium One deal, the one where the Clintons walked away with millions and the Russians walked away with 20% of America's uranium. The informant who brought the bribery to the attention of the FBI in the criminal case prosecuted by Eric Holder's Justice Department and Rod Rosenstein's Maryland office was gagged, so he couldn't tell you what the Russians were doing. And the lie that the uranium wasn't leaving our shores? Reports from the Hill are that when inquiries were made whether our uranium was being shipped to our enemy, Russia, NRC Chairman Gregory Yasko, a former Harry Reid staffer, apparently well-versed in the swamp, said we never issued a license to the Russian firm and no uranium could be exported without it. But hang on, folks. The NRC approved the shipment of uranium from our mines to Canada through a third party. And later, the Obama administration itself allowed it to go to Europe. Rather than give an open license to the Russians, the NRC allowed a trucking firm to circumvent the license requirement and simply transport the uranium to Canada. And no one in Congress even noticed. You know, it all makes sense now. Obama dancing with the devil, so keen on making the Iran deal with our sworn enemy. That Iran deal allowing them to develop the capability to create Molly 99 in their country from uranium and sell it back to us. Molly 99, of course, is the medical ingredient that's used to diagnose heart disease and cancer in over 40 million Americans a year. It cannot be made without uranium. So here's the bottom line. We shouldn't export our weapons-grade uranium to other countries. And I'm not even talking about the criminality and money to the Clintons and their so-called charitable foundation that accompanied the sale of our uranium to Russia, so that other countries can then provide us with medical isotopes. We don't need to give billions of dollars to other countries so that they can develop their nuclear programs and then sell it to us at a profit. We don't need Russia, Iran, or anyone else in control of our medical testing or imaging. I, for one, don't want to give anyone but Americans the leverage over that. And I got news for you. There is a law called the American Medical Isotopes Production Act that requires that our government support the development in this country of Molly-99 for medical uses. It's time to use our uranium for the development of our medical imaging, for the creation of jobs in our country, to lower health care costs for our working Americans, and not to mention the nuclear security that goes along with it. We don't need to be vulnerable to Russia, Iran, or even North Korea. We don't need them to leverage us by turning off a supply, the development of which we paid for or assisted in the creation of. You know, it's bad enough for people like me who get that cancer diagnosis, who go through the treatment, not knowing what's going to happen at the other end. We shouldn't have to deal with the thought that our uranium, our taxpayer dollars, are being used to develop our medical isotopes, increase our dependency on foreign governments, especially governments that are committed to our destruction. The problem is there's no real production of Molly-99 in the United States. We need our own domestic production, and we need to stop sending weapons-grade uranium to our enemies. You, me, and 40 million other Americans for whom nuclear imaging provides the devastating information or the sweet, precious, life-saving relief shouldn't be held hostage to people who want to kill us. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, #Judge Jeanine. And joining me now with reaction to my opening statement and all the breaking news, Doctor of Dental Surgery and Texas Congressman Brian Babin and Florida Congressman Ron DeSantis. All right, guys, thank you both for being here. I'm going to start with Congressman Babin. All right, Congressman, why do we rely on other countries for the development of Molly-99?
Mainly because we have stopped manufacturing nuclear weapons because of an agreement we did back in the 80s with the Soviet Union, and so we are no longer creating weapons, and quite frankly, we're dependent upon a lot of nations around the world for our radioisotopes that we use, and these radioisotopes are extremely important for the manufacture of these various isotopes that are used in the practice of medicine and diagnosing and treating diseases such as cancer and saving lives. And as you said earlier, there are 40 million procedures a year done with nuclear medicine, and so it's very, very important that we not be dependent upon foreign nations, especially Russia, for these isotopes.
And Dr. Babin, Congressman Babin, if you could tell my viewers what would Molly-99, what is nuclear imaging? When they go for what kind of test would this be relevant or would this be used?
Well, like I said, there are 40 million procedures a year, and many of them are specific for certain organs in the body, whether it's your heart, your thyroid, muscular diseases, or bones, and these isotopes many of them are man-made. In fact, all of them are man-made, and they're very specific for for their task at hand, and they save lives. I can't overemphasize that. They are so much better than the old traditional X-rays, our PET scans, our CT scans. I mean, there's so many of these different types of tests that have advanced the medical fields so much in saving American lives. So we can't be dependent upon other nations to give us these isotopes.
All right, and Congressman DeSantis, I'll go to you. Given the corruption case that is underlying that Uranium One deal. And, you know, the news that's been broken in the last few days about that deal. Why would there be an Iranian deal where $150 billion then goes to Iran, where we invest in them to be able to create the medical isotopes so we can then buy it back? So we're giving uranium or selling it to Russia. Obama administration approves it. And then we're dealing with Iran, giving them $150 billion so that we can then buy the isotopes from them.
And that violates a 2012 law that was actually enacted by Congress to try to address the problem of us having to import this, the uranium underlying these tests. And the Iran deal was never passed by Congress. It was never ratified as a treaty. It was basically Obama making an executive agreement, obviously front-loading hundreds of billions of dollars in benefits to a terror financing state. But he was doing that unilaterally, and you cannot violate existing law. Right. So that's a huge issue in and of itself. And then, oh, by the way, with the Clinton uranium deal, we were told, as you mentioned, Judge, in your open, oh, yeah, so Russia has 20%. They're not allowed to export it because they didn't have an exporting license. And while that is technically true, what we've now found out was that that uranium was sent outside the United States. They did it very underhandedly. There were a lot of indirect ways to do it, but that was exported.
Congressman, do we know, once that stuff was exported and they used trucking to get it to Canada, do we know where it went from Canada? And by the way, to my viewers, we're on the screen. We're waiting for the president and Air Force One to land, I believe, and that's why that screen is up. But Congressman DeSantis, do we know that?
Well, we definitely know that it went to Europe. We believe it went to Asia, and we're working on trying to figure out whether it did, in fact, end up in the hands of a rogue regime like Iran. We haven't been able to substantiate that yet, but we have some indications that may have happened. We're working on that. Hopefully be able to substantiate that soon, one way or another.
And in that regard, your committee, and we appreciate your coming back on justice, you've indicated that you're starting hearings on this whole thing. You've got some breaking news for us. That informant on that underlying criminal case that was in the Rod Rosenstein's office, that gag order has been lifted. What do you expect to hear in the next few weeks?
So we are getting all of the documents. He compiled all kind of documents from his time as an informant. So we're getting all of those documents. We've already gotten leads based on some of the information in there. We're going to be bringing him in within the next couple of weeks. He's going to be interviewed mostly behind the scenes so that we can tease out all the information. And then it's going to require us to follow some of these leads. I think we will eventually do hearings, but I think there's just so much information that we're now going to have access to for the first time in years that's going to take us some time to really go through all that, because there's a lot of different moving parts in this. A lot of it's corrupt, but there are a bunch of different parts.
Well, and clearly the attorney for the informant who was gagged is calling for special counsel, as is Senator Grassley, and I assume you believe that to be the case as well?
Well, if Jeff Sessions has taken the position he's going to recuse on anything involving the Clintons, then obviously he would not be able to handle this. But neither could his deputy, Rosenstein, for exactly the reason you mentioned. Rosenstein was involved in handling the McKeeran prosecution, and I think there's some questions about how these cases were disposed of. So I think because of Sessions' position, Rosenstein's involvement, I do think it would be appropriate to have a special counsel outside the normal chain.
All right, and Congressman Babin, I assume that members of Congress are going to be doing everything they can to comply with the Medical Isotopes Act so we can start developing these isotopes and the key to identifying and treating some major diseases here in the United States?
Department of Energy has already started with millions of dollars worth of grants to various American institutions so that we can begin to do this.
Well, let's hope so, because I haven't heard of any that are actually developing. Anyway, Congressman Babin, Congressman DeSantis, thanks so much for being with us tonight. And a reminder, we are very close to President Trump arriving in Japan, and you can track it right here on your screen. Meantime, here with more reaction to all of this developing news, former Assistant assistant to the president and author of the New York Times bestseller, Defeating Jihad, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. All right, Dr. Gorka, thanks for being with us this evening. Look, I am very focused right now, not just on the Clintons Foundation and Russia and the Iranian deal, but the impact that it has on ordinary Americans, my viewers out there who have cancer, who go for medical imaging, nuclear imaging, and they have no idea that most of this is being bought from foreign countries. Right. Canada, that right now it's going down in terms of its production, and we don't know where we're getting it in the future. And Barack Obama is sending 150 for the development of a nuclear imaging in Iran so that we can buy it back. What is going on?
Judge Jeanine, thank you for that incredibly moving and powerful monologue at the beginning of your show. You've shed light on a completely new angle of this story, because when we hear the words plutonium, uranium, we think about weapons, we think about bombs, and of course there never should have been a deal which Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, approved to sell any of our uranium to Russia because of the weapons implications, because of Russia's relations to countries like North Korea.
You can see Air Force One on the screen here. Sorry, Dr. Gorka.
I see it.
You can see it too. Okay. Yeah. Air Force One arriving in Japan. Historic trip for the president. It will be the longest trip for the president leaving the United States since he came into office. And all right, Dr. Gorka, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's just you've illuminated another aspect completely. We should be self-sufficient when this is a life and death matter. Right. The experience you went through, all the people getting chemotherapy right now, we shouldn't have to be we shouldn't be selling that to another nation and then having to buy it back. So it's outrageous when it comes to national security, and it's outrageous when it comes to the health of suffering Americans.
And, you know, the amazing thing is that there is a mandate for the United States to actually create its own development, and it's just not happening. You know, there is a law that requires it. But let me move on here. With respect to the uranium deal and the Department of Justice, there is a call for a special counsel. And, you know, this week I was at the White House and I spoke to the president and said that we absolutely have to investigate Uranium One, the sale of our uranium to Russia, the Clinton Foundation, the alleged pay for play. Do you hear anything about whether anything is going to be happening?
Well, look, given what the president said yesterday and the day before, something clearly will happen. He has sent a very delicate but very clear message to the Attorney General. We need somebody to investigate all these massively important scandals, but somebody who is unconnected. It can't be Rod Rosenstein, can't be anybody on the 7th floor of the FBI, can't be anybody in the leadership of the DOJ that worked for Obama. We need to dig down. We need to go to a field office of the FBI out in Texas. We need to go to an RA out in Virginia, pick clean people who have no connections to any of these deals and let them investigate them. And wherever the shoe falls, the people must pay the penalty, because this is serious felonious activity, national security, classified information, and corruption at the highest levels of government.
And you know, Dr. Gorka, the interesting thing is it's not just because they were in the Obama administration. I mean, this particular case and with the underlying bribery and corruption that preceded the Uranium One sale to Russia, it was actually handled in Rod Rosenstein's office. So it's not like, oh, this is just part of Obama. No, these are the same players. Mueller is investigating Russia, and he was in charge of the FBI at the time this deal went down. This is incestuous at best.
It is, and we have to be not only a nation of the rule of law, we have to look as if it must smack as if things are going by the book, not just actually going by the book. And when Rod Rosenstein is in that position, he must not be involved. He must recuse himself.
Amazing stuff from our Department of Justice. All right, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, as always, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, and our live breaking coverage President Trump's arrival in Tokyo continues here in just a moment. Very exciting times. Don't go away. Welcome back to Justice. You're looking live at Yokota Air Base in Japan. That plane on the ground believed to be support arriving in advance of President and the First Lady. Air Force One should be landing in Tokyo any minute. We're going to keep monitoring it throughout the hours, so keep your eye on the screen. Meantime, you saw my open tonight. New questions about the Uranium One scandal and the Clintons. Plus, more embarrassing details for Hillary and the Democrats from Donna Brazil's new book. Let's get back into all of it with Fox News contributor and former Congressman Jason Chaffetz. All right, good evening, Congressman, or shall I call you Jason?
Good evening.
Good evening. All right, any follow-up or any hope of follow-up before we get into Tokyo? I want to talk to you about that. With the Department of Justice, given the fact that you had asked the Attorney General Sessions for specific movement on specific evidence, any hope now?
Well, first of all, thanks for sharing a deeply heartfelt message, your own personal story. You know, I lost my mom to cancer, my dad to cancer. So thanks for fighting it and winning and sharing that story. But it is absolutely outrageous on uranium. I can think of absolutely no good reason why the United States would give up control of any of its uranium. But there seemed to be $100+ million worth of reasons and people connected that made donations to the Clinton Foundation, even though it may have been via Canada, also in violation of what seems to be a personal relationship with President Obama, that they wouldn't do any of this. The bottom line is you have to follow the dollars, and the Department of Justice and the other departments and agencies have to give Congress those documents. That's the way our system works, and so far they haven't done that.
And of course, when you were there and asked for it, they wouldn't give it to you, and right now the State Department is still far behind, as is the Department of Justice. And the amazing thing is Justice and the State Department were fighting on behalf of Hillary, saying she had a right to privacy and therefore they weren't going to release various foiled or Freedom of Information requests. But I want to move on from that. You can see right there, they're waiting for the president in Tokyo. I understand that just a few months ago you were there in Tokyo. You've been there as a congressman. How important is this visit?
Look, the relationship with Prime Minister Abe is a critical one. I was there in May, was able to meet with him and spend a good hour talking about the issues and discussions, not only trade, but the national security implications. And certainly to see President Trump there on the ground in Japan is going to mean the world to the Japanese, who need the help and safety and security blanket of the United States. And then as he travels up and is able to go to South Korea, we have got to be in unison. The Japanese have been a tremendous asset. Many Air Force capabilities that we have there in great unison with the Japanese, but they desperately need our help and assistance. And I think the president will strengthen that relationship and send a strong message, not just to North Korea, but also to the Chinese as well, that we got a good partner in Japan.
And you know, the interesting thing is, you know, so many Americans, Jason, don't really have a sense of Japan and where we are in relation to them and what they can do for us or what we do for them. The truth is, Japan kind of sits there vulnerable to North Korea. I mean, they're the ones, some of the ones who seem to be in the firing line of Kim Jong-un.
Well, as you've seen North Korea do its test missiles, they're going into sometimes the Sea of Japan, in close proximity to Japan, sometimes flying over Japan is my recollection. I could be wrong on that, but I think they're flying actually over Japan at times. And again, they don't have the deterrent capability that the United States has. We have tens of thousands of U.S. servicemen and women between South Korea and Japan. Then you couple in what we're doing with Guam. We've actually been moving troops somewhat out of Japan into Guam, but in a forward nature to be able to not only project power, but to also protect. And it's really a critical partnership.
And also in terms of the, what we can look forward to in the next few weeks in terms of congressional hearings, you may have heard Congressman Ron DeSantis interested, of course, in speaking to that witness who was gagged by Holder and Loretta Lynch. That gag, of course, recently lifted. The president being in a kind of a tough situation, he really can't push that hard. Although he's doing, I believe, the best he can to not tell the Attorney General what to do, but at the same time to let him know that he's not happy with this kind of laid-back approach by the Attorney General's office. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, look, I mean, you have so many things where people are admitting that there's wrongdoing that is happening there. I mean, the uranium one is the one issue. Donna Brazil talking about that she has quote unquote proof of rigging of an election. How come the Department of Justice is not seizing these types of things, jumping right into the middle of that? Now, maybe they're doing something behind the scenes, but they should also be giving those documents to Congress.
Right.
That's the way this country works.
All right. Jason Chaffetz, you were always in there punching for us. Thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And more from Yokota Air Base in Tokyo, where President Trump is about to arrive and address U.S. troops. Our live breaking coverage resumes in a moment. Breaking tonight, President Trump due to arrive in Japan at any minute. Let's go live to John Roberts at Yokota Air Base in Tokyo with more. John?
Judge, good evening to you. A couple of thousand service members are here, members of the Air Force who are stationed here at Yokota Air Force Base, and there are about 14,000 who are stationed here. We've seen some members of the Navy and a contingent of Marines who are normally based in Okinawa. They were doing some training up at Camp Fuji and are now transiting back to Okinawa, but stopping here tonight to hear the president as he kicks off his 11-day, 5-nation tour of Asia. This is the longest tour of Asia for an American president since George H.W. Bush about 25 years ago. The president will be here in Japan for the next couple of days. Then he goes to South Korea, then a couple of days in Vietnam, going to Da Nang and Hanoi, China, and then finishing it off in Manila in the Philippines. You were mentioning, along with Jason Chaffetz, the threat that this entire region faces from North Korea, and in fact a couple of intercontinental ballistic missiles have flown, or maybe medium-range missiles, have flown over the northern Japanese island of Hokkaido. So it's an issue of great sensitivity here in Japan as well. In addition to talking about security, the president will also be talking with Shinzo Abe today and again tomorrow about trade. The president not happy with the fact that the United States has got trade deficits with all 5 nations that he's visiting. But this afternoon, Judge, they're going to take a little time off. You know how the president loves to golf. Shinzo Abe loves to golf. They're going to get together with Hideki Matsuyama. He is ranked number 4 in the world in professional golf to play around this afternoon. So the president kicking off this Asian trip with one of the things he likes doing best, talking to the troops and then hitting the little golf ball around for 18 holes, Judge.
All right. You know what, John? Stay with us for just a little bit. The president is landing. We want to take you live to the president's remarks as soon as they begin. But, John, let's continue to watch this as the president lands. And, it's interesting, John, that you say that the president is going to hit some golf balls or play a little golf. He seems to do a lot of business on the golf course.
Well, what's really interesting is remember how he used to hammer President Obama for golfing instead of doing the nation's business? Well, the president plays golf probably as much as Barack Obama did. He's out there just about every weekend, whether it's in Virginia, whether it's in Bedminster or down at Mar-a-Lago, playing one of the 2 Trump courses, the International out in West Palm Beach or Trump National at Jupiter. He plays an awful lot of golf. But what the president likes to do is do business on the golf course. So in a way, even though he's playing golf, Judge, he's still working.
Well, you know what? And I think therein lies the rub, that the president is always working. When he's playing golf, he's working. And that's how he does business. And a lot of people do that. It's not just for the fun of it. It is an amicable setting within which to discuss world issues.
I think there are a lot of people who probably do more business deals on the golf course than they do in the boardroom. I happen to not be one of them. All of my golf is purely recreational. It should never be confused with anything coming close to business. But the president, remember, he had Lindsey Graham out. He had Rand Paul and Lindsey Graham out. He likes to do, a lot of congressional business as well with people who appreciate being out there on the golf course. You get out there, you knock the ball around, you get the smell of grass and all that, and sometimes you the camaraderie builds, and sometimes you see eye to eye more over a putt than you do over a boardroom table.
Well, there's no question. I've been on those golf courses, and the smell of fresh cut grass is almost intoxicating and certainly quite calming, especially if you're kind of stressed out, as I often was. But I gave up the game because I wasn't too good at it. Anyway, John, we're going to come back to you. And as we watch the president and first lady landing in Japan just seconds ago, we are awaiting the president's remarks to our troops at Yokota Air Base there. We'll take them live as soon as he begins. But first, joining me now with his thoughts on what to expect from this very consequential president's trip to Asia, former United States ambassador to the UN and our Fox News contributor, John Bolton. All right, good evening, Ambassador. What is the significance of this visit, and what is on the line for the United States?
Well, it's an important visit. It comes at a critical time. I think security in Asia is at the top of the list. Trade is certainly there as well. But the first three stops, Japan, South Korea, and China, are going to be dominated by the North Korean nuclear weapons program and what we're going to do about it. And that's why the president stopping in Japan first to underline the alliance. Shinzo Abe, the Japanese prime minister, perhaps the most pro-American Japanese prime minister since World War II. He really feels deeply about our country. And he began his political rise as a member of the Japanese parliament by championing the families of Japanese citizens who were kidnapped by North Korea. Kidnapped, taken there. Most of them have never been heard from again. So Abe is deeply knowledgeable about the threat North Korea poses. He stood side by side with President Trump at the United Nations back in September. I think he'll be very much in favor of a strong stand on this as the president goes to China. So this is an important first stop here for these two allies to coordinate their next steps. And what do you expect? I mean, do you expect the president to modulate his verbiage at all? I mean, Kim Jong-un is listening, and the president is in kind of his part of the world. Is Kim Jong-un going to do anything just to be showy or to make a statement? Well, there's a lot of speculation. We could see another missile launch. There's even speculation there might be a seventh nuclear test. I think it would be very poorly advised on Kim Jong-un's part, not that that would slow him down in the slightest. But if he did, it would simply underline why the president, in my view, was right in September at the UN when he said denuclearization is the only way forward for North Korea. We're not going to accept that these people have deliverable nuclear weapons. And that's the message he'll certainly carry to South Korea, but most importantly when he arrives in Beijing and meets with Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader. And what do you expect to happen with Xi Jinping in China? I mean, it's kind of been, the stop and go with him. Well, for 25 years, the Chinese have been saying they don't want North Korea to have nuclear weapons, and a lot of people in the United States nod and say, oh, the Chinese are with us, but they never do what they have the capability of doing, which is really bringing North Korea's economy to its knees and making sure that the weapons program stops. Now, Xi Jinping is at the high point of his political power in China. I think he can call the shots on North Korea, and I think the president's prepared to put it to him very straight. Either this time you take care of the North Korean nuclear weapons program, let's do this together the easy way, or we will not leave that regime in power with nuclear weapons, and we'll do it the hard way. All right. Ambassador Bolton, I want you to stay with us. I know that former Congressman Jason Chaffetz is still with us. Congressman, yes, you are still with us. All right, Congressman, I mean, in listening to Ambassador Bolton as it relates to Xi Jinping and whether or not, whether the visit to China is going to impact anything since his visit to Mar-a-Lago many months ago?
Oh, I hope it does. Look, we have 3 carrier groups in the area. The Chinese do not want to have a mass exodus of people out of North Korea moving into China. They're in a position to have more influence on North Korean leader than probably anybody, as the ambassador knows. And so we've got quite a show of force that's there, and to have the president on the ground is going to be impactful, especially to all the servicemen and women that you see in those shots. They're away from their families in a very difficult situation. To have the president there and say, hey, letting him know that the president's got their back is a very strong message.
And, now that, we see him coming into Tokyo now, what do you expect from the president in terms of his discussion with Abe as well as the troops?
Well, look, the troops is making sure that they know they've got his back, but also the Prime Minister Abe and President Trump have a very good, strong relationship. I mean, they have a regular communication. They've had good interaction. They're great partners of the United States. When we had a congressional delegation there earlier this year, you had people from both sides of the aisle showing our strength and our relationship, and that's very good for the Japanese to see that we're united in our support of Japan.
Are the Japanese afraid of North Korea, Jason?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when we sat with the Prime Minister, albeit a number of months ago, it was right at the top of their list. There were a group of businessmen that were here that I spoke to last week, and they also had a deep, deep concern about the wild nature of the North Korean leader. And there's a reason why we have 3 carrier groups, almost unprecedented, in the area, in the region, to make sure that we can take care of any trouble that might flare up.
All right, Congressman, stay with us. I'm going back to the Ambassador Bolton. Ambassador, when you hear Congressman Chaffetz talk about, the businessmen who are concerned about, the business in Japan vis-a-vis the dangers of North Korea, I mean, how does the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the business arrangement between the countries impact what is going on in terms of this visit?
Well, trade issues are unquestionably going to be on the agenda in all the countries that the president visits. And despite our close political military relationship with Japan, we've had our fair share of trade disputes with them over the years. But there's nothing like North Korean nuclear weapons to concentrate the attention on what's really important. So I think they will try and make progress on the trade side, and I think they're likely to do it. Abe is poised to try and amend the Japanese post-World War II Constitution, which we basically imposed on them, that gives up force in the national defense. And the Japanese view themselves, their economy, as they're a normal nation now. They want to defend themselves. It's a very strongly held position. Abe's got the majority.
I have to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. What do you mean gives up force in the national defense? Explain that.
Well, under their constitution, they've got a very limited, at least theoretically, capability. They call it the Japanese Self-Defense Forces. Now, these forces are very, very capable, but Abe wants to change the way that Japan thinks about its place in Asia to move beyond World War II. They like to say they consider themselves a normal country now, and a normal country should provide for its own self-defense. I think this would be an amazing step forward and a big plus for the United States. And
as you can see, it looks like the staircase is coming down, and hopefully we will see the president actually not coming down. They're moving the staircase to Air Force One as the president lands in Tokyo with the First Lady, about to make remarks to the troops at the Yokota Air Base. And so, Ambassador Bolton, as we keep talking, several months back, South Korea was very resistant to the missile defense system, almost dissing the concept that they needed protection from North Korea. Do you think that that's changing, and that it will change as the president continues in this very consequential visit to the Far East?
Well, it has changed somewhat, but the president, Moon Jae-in, is an inheritor of what was called 10 or 15 years ago the Sunshine Policy toward North Korea, that, gee, only if we could only open more ties with them, everything would be fine and we wouldn't have this tension on the peninsula. I think it's a very badly misguided policy, so this will be a difficult conversation for our president because he's got to worry about Americans threatened by North Korean nuclear weapons. Now, let me say, South Korea is politically very divided, and there's a lot of support for the president's strong stand on North Korea. The leader of the South Korean opposition just about 10 days ago called for the redeployment of American tactical nuclear weapons in South Korea, which is quite an amazing thing to happen there. So this will be a difficult relationship, but the president, I think, really needs to move the South Korean president along because stand on North Korea. The leader of the South Korean opposition just about 10 days ago called for the redeployment of American tactical nuclear weapons in South Korea, which is quite an amazing thing to happen there. So this will be a difficult relationship, but the president, I think, really needs to move the South Korean president along because they're getting to the point in North Korea where they will be able to hit a target continental United States with nuclear weapons, perhaps in a matter of months. That's what CIA Director Mike Pompeo said within the past few weeks.
Right. And stay with us, Ambassador. Congressman Chaffetz, any input on this whole issue of the redeployment of the nuclear weapons as it relates to South Korea and their previous somewhat resistance to our assistance?
Well, just prior to the election of President Moon, the THAAD system was being deployed, and President Moon, had a bit more of a dovish type of approach. But as you've seen since his election, he's actually taken a bit of a tougher stance.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt.
But I think when he's able to sit face to face,
just hold on, Congressman. You can see on the screen the president and the first lady coming down the stairway there as they arrive in Japan at the air base in Tokyo. Being greeted, of course, by the dignitaries there on the tarmac. All right, Congressman, keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Well, what I was saying is that ever since President Moon has been in place, they've taken actually a little bit tougher stance, on the aggression that you've seen out of North Korea. But the deployment of the THAAD system is a very important system, and we need more of it. It takes time to get it all fully in place. They want more of it, but then you've also got to look at what's going on in Guam. But to see the president on the ground in Japan, this is a good moment.
Well, it certainly is. And, I think it's kind of to both of you, Ambassador Bolton, as well as the congressman, it's kind of an in-your-face to Kim Jong-un, which is so much the way our president handles that situation with that lunatic out there. But, Ambassador Bolton, I am just hearing from my producer in my ear that the president has just confirmed to reporters on Air Force One that he is expecting to meet with Putin. Have you heard that yourself, Ambassador?
Well, it had been speculated about, and one of the things that happens at these multilateral meetings, this would be in Da Nang or in the Philippines, is that it's not just the big meetings where things get done. It's in bilateral meetings, as they say, on the margins of the bigger meetings. And I think it's appropriate for him to meet with Putin when they're in this kind of forum. There's obviously a lot to talk about and a lot of things to push back on Putin on. So it's not surprising, really.
All right. Ambassador Bolton, Congressman Chaffetz, stay with us. We're going to go to John Roberts, who I understand may have some information on that very topic. John? John?
Yeah, hey, Judge. The president came back for about 11 minutes on Air Force One, back to the press cabin on the way from Honolulu here to Yokota Air Base. He did say that it looks like he's going to meet with Vladimir Putin in Da Nang on the sidelines of the APEC conference. You'll remember the last time they got together was on the sidelines of the G20 conference in Hamburg. So it's probably expected that the two of them would meet. The president says it's very important to get Russia's cooperation on North Korea. So that's one of the reasons why they're going to meet at the APEC conference in Da Nang, and that will be the first part of next week, well, actually middle part of next week. On North Korea, the president said that he will make a decision soon, quote soon, on whether or not to designate North Korea a state sponsor of terrorism. That announcement may come further on in the trip. Also disputes that President Xi Jinping comes to his meeting with a new sense of power after claiming victory in the Chinese elections. And many people believe that he has got more power than any other Chinese leader since Mao Zedong. And one other point, the president said that he tweeted the other day that he'd like, maybe it might have been this morning, I don't know, we were on a plane for 24 hours, Judge, that he would like that the initial public offering for Aramco, the Saudi national oil company, to be on the New York Stock Exchange. The president says that he talked to King Salman today, and the king is mulling over a decision whether or not to do it on the New York Stock Exchange. The president said it's very important because we want to have all the big listings. He knows that they're looking at London and others. So the president would definitely like to see that come to the New York Stock Exchange, and he put in that bid with King Salman. Hey, one interesting little piece of color, and you can hear that the Air Force Rock and Roll Band is really kicking it up here tonight. As Air Force One was coming in, the Air Force Orchestra, who's on a riser just opposite the band, was playing the Jerry Goldsmith theme from the movie Air Force One, the Harrison Ford film. We saw that all the time during the election campaign when the president would roll up in his aircraft, sort of setting the stage, if you will, for becoming president.
You know what, John, I have to tell you,
go ahead.
The president loves music. He really does. And he always is like keying the music into the event. You know? It's very Donald Trump, very President Trump now.
And again, we have seen it in these campaign-style events, whether it was the Trump plane or whether it was Air Force One, when he was making some of his first stops after becoming president.
Thank you very much, and General Martinez, everybody, for your devoted leadership of our brave troops right here in Japan. And especially thank you, especially to all of the incredible service members. We're really here today, and we're going to have a good time. And we're going to celebrate your achievements. So I'll issue one of your favorite commands. Are you ready? At ease. At ease. Just sit there. Now have a good time. Just have a good time. Melania and I also want to extend a special thanks to Ambassador Bill Hagerty, who's doing an outstanding job. He's an outstanding person. I know him very well. Believe me, you got one of the great ones. He's leading our American embassy in Tokyo. I'm honored to be here today in this beautiful country, home of the extraordinary people of Japan. Japan is a treasured partner and crucial ally of the United States. And today we thank them for welcoming us and for decades of wonderful friendship between our two nations. Americans have deep respect and admiration for the people of Japan, their amazing culture, their strong spirit, and their very proud history. So on behalf of the United States of America, I send the warmest wishes of the American people to the citizens of this remarkable country. Now I know how you guys feel. This is pretty good. Our travels across Asia will take us to many historic places, to see many wonderful sights, and to speak before many audiences. But there is no single place I'd rather begin my trip than right here with all of you, the incredible men and women of the United States military and your amazing partners, the Japanese Self-Defense Forces. Thank you for being here. Thank you. To everyone here today who serves your country in uniform, thank you, thank you, thank you. We salute you What's your rank? We're going to raise it. We salute you, we honor you, and we stand proudly with the men and women who defend us and our way of life. Nations are built from the courage, love, and sacrifice of patriots just like you. Each of you inherits the proud legacy of generations of warriors that have walked these very grounds for more than 7 decades. From Yakota's runways, American pilots took to the air and drove back the invaders during the Korean War. Tremendous courage, tremendous bravery. From here, they enforced a precious peace during a long and bitter Cold War. And in the aftermath of the devastating 2011 tsunami, this base served as the launching point for Operation Tomodachi, largest humanitarian relief effort in American history, which saved the lives of thousands and thousands of great Japanese citizens. Like those who came before you, you always rise to the occasion, and you never, ever let your country down. General Martinez, General Shirati, General Pascaret, Rear Admiral Fenton, Brigadier General Winkler, Colonel Moss, and Chief Master Sergeant Green, you lead the forces under your command with exceptional skill and devotion, and America is tremendously grateful to you. We're also very fortunate to stand alongside such strong and capable allies. General Mahira, General Asai, General Imaki, and General Ando. Thank you for your leadership and service. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. On behalf of the American people, I want each and every one of you, both American and Japanese, to know that your service and commitment helps keep us all safe, strong, and free. I also want to express our gratitude to the family members and loved ones who sacrifice so much to make your service possible. They are absolutely incredible people, and it's not easy. America is profoundly grateful for all you do. And we are back home starting to do, I will tell you, and you're reading and you're seeing really, really well. The stock market is at an all-time high. Unemployment back in the United States is at a 17-year low. Almost 2 million jobs have been added since a very, very special day. It's called Election Day, November 8th. 2 million jobs. It's a lot of jobs. And we've dealt ISIS one brutal defeat after another, and it's about time. It's truly inspiring to see American airmen and Marines and Japanese. Yeah, I have a great Marine here, General Kelly, 4-star. Did anyone ever hear of General Kelly? Where's General Kelly? He is something. Now he's Chief of Staff. But he does like those 4 stars, I want to tell you that. But American airmen and the Marines and Japanese self-defense forces, they're standing here with us today, side by side, confident, committed, and more capable than ever. You instill confidence in the hearts of our allies, and you strike fear in the hearts of our enemies. It's the way it should be, isn't it? Our alliance is a testament to the transformative power of freedom. Today, nations that once waged war now stand together as friends and partners in pursuit of a much better world. And we're getting there. We're getting there faster than you think. With your presence here today, shoulder to shoulder, you put hope into every soul that yearns for peace. All of you have made Yokota one of the most capable operational bases in Japan and actually anywhere in the world. For over a decade, this incredible place has been home not only to American service members, but also to the Air Defense Command of the Japanese Air Self-Defense Force. Today, this base serves as a critical center for coordination for American and Japanese commanders to plan their missions. For almost 60 years, the military alliance we see on this base has endured a cornerstone of sovereignty, security, and prosperity for our nations, this region, and indeed the entire world. Today we pay tribute to that legacy, a legacy you protect and grow each and every day. We dominate the sky, we dominate the sea, we dominate the land and space. Not merely because we have the best equipment, which we do. And by the way, a lot of it's coming in. You saw that budget. That's a lot different than in the past. A lot of beautiful, brand new equipment is coming in. And nobody makes it like they make it in the United States. Nobody. Got a lot of stuff coming. Use it well. But because we have, more important than equipment, we have the best people. Each of you embodies the warrior creed. Your devotion, prowess, and expertise make you the most fearsome fighting force in the history of our world. Together with our allies, America's warriors are prepared to defend our nation using the full range of our unmatched capabilities. No one, no dictator, no regime, and no nation should underestimate ever American resolve. Every once in a while in the past, they underestimated us. It was not pleasant for them, was it? It was not pleasant. We will never yield, never waver, and never falter in defense of our people, our freedom, and our great American flag. That flag stands for the values of our republic, the history of our people, the sacrifice of our heroes, and our loyalty to the nation we love. As long as I am president, the servicemen and women who defend our nation will have the equipment, the resources, and the funding they need to secure our homeland, to respond to our enemies quickly and decisively, and when necessary, to fight, to overpower, and to always, always, always win. Right? This is the heritage of the American Armed Forces, the greatest force for peace and justice the world has ever known. Free nations must be strong nations, and we welcome it when our allies from Europe to Asia renew their commitment to peace through strength. We seek peace and stability for the nations of the world, including those right here in this region, and it's a great region. As Americans celebrate Veterans Day this month, we honor all who have sacrificed to make peace and stability possible. We pay tribute to every proud American who has worn the uniform and served our country. Today, many nations of the Indo-Pacific are thriving because of the sacrifices made by American service members and our allies, and because of the sacrifices all of you continue to make each and every day. Here in Japan, we have seen the amazing things that are possible when a people are free and independent. Over the course of a single lifetime, the Japanese people have built one of the most successful societies and nations in the world. Over the next 10 days, we travel to South Korea, China, Vietnam, and the Philippines. We will seek new opportunities for cooperation and commerce, and we will partner with friends and allies to pursue a free and open Indo-Pacific region. We will seek free, fair, and reciprocal trade. But this future is only within our grasp because of you. You make it possible for peace-loving nations to thrive and for peace-loving people to prosper. You are the reason the great American flag will proudly stand behind me wherever I go. And every time I look at that flag, I will think of brave men and women like you, and I will think of all of the American patriots down through the generations who poured out their blood, sweat, tears, hopes, and dreams to defend our country. When you follow your citizens and people across the Indo-Pacific region see the flags of free and sovereign states like the United States and Japan displayed during our diplomatic meetings over the next 10 days, be proud of your nation, be proud of your service, and be proud of the security you provide that makes it all possible. Like your predecessors, you, our brave warriors, are the last bulwark against threats to the dreams of people in America and Japan and all across the world. You are the greatest hope for people who desire to live in freedom and harmony, and you are the greatest threat to tyrants and dictators who seek to prey on the innocent. History has proven over and over that the road of the tyrant is a steady march toward poverty, suffering, and servitude. But the path of strong nations and free people, certain of their values and confident in their futures, is a proven path toward prosperity and peace. We cherish our cultures, we embrace our values, and we always fight for what we believe in. Because of you, the people of America, the people of Japan, and the freedom-loving people everywhere are able to fulfill their destinies and follow their dreams. And we are grateful for your families, for their sacrifice and support that allows our brave men and women to serve. We also appreciate the sacrifice of dedicated civilians who keep this base going and take care of our military and their precious loved ones. We are eternally grateful for your service and for your sacrifice, and we are forever in your debt. I am so proud to be here with you today. We face many challenges and many opportunities, and we will face all of them together as a team. And if we do, I am certain that the future for America, for Japan, and for our cherished allies has never, ever looked brighter. Because of patriots like you, freedom will prevail. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the armed forces, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
All right, we see President Donald Trump completing his speech to the U.S. troops at the Yokota Air Force Base, in Tokyo, Japan. A very inspirational speech. The president clearly with an affection for the military, giving them a big shot in the arm, talking about what a treasured partner Japan is to the United States, now a crucial ally. And even though at one point we were countries that were at war, we now stand together as friends and partners in pursuit of a much better world. It was clear that this audience, this military audience, was very jazzed up for the president, and he had some very warm words to those troops, telling them that Americans salute them, that they honor them, and that because of them, American people have a remarkable country, and indicating to the troops as well that they have never let us down, but also taking a little credit for what's going on in the United States, the stock market at an all-time high, unemployment at a 17-year low, 2 million jobs since Election Day, and ISIS being defeated, one defeat after another. He gave the military real kudos in saying that they strike fear in the hearts of our enemies. And not only does the United States have the best equipment, we have the best people, and that we dominate the sky, the sea, the land, and space. And that is President Trump giving kudos to the military at the Yokota Air Force Base in Tokyo, Japan. I'm going to call in Ambassador Bolton now as we see the president saying goodbye. Or right now, I'm hearing Congressman Chaffetz. Congressman, you still with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, Congressman, what's your take on that speech this evening? Or 11 a.m.-ish in Tokyo?
Look, the president makes us proud there. You know, these are tough, tumultuous, and dangerous times, and you got tens of thousands of Americans out there serving our nation, being that front line of defense. You got 3 carrier groups in the area, and you had a president who is fiercely patriotic, and I love it, and I think they loved it too. No apologies. He knows that the United States of America is the strongest superpower in the world, and he makes no apologies for it. He loves the red, white, and blue. You can see it in his face, the way he projects it. He's talking from his heart, and that will radiate out to those troops. It was just absolutely, it was great.
Yeah, and it's so powerful when he talks about them, and he talks about American patriots, and I was kind of thrown back to the Winston Churchill when he said American patriots have poured out their blood, their sweat, their tears for the dreams of Americans. I mean, a very powerful speech, very well delivered, very well received, a real hand of friendship to Japan, our ally, and very refreshing, Congressman, that the United States and the president, showing public displays of cooperation with allies, as opposed to the last 8 years when our allies had no idea they were our allies based on how they were being treated by Barack Obama.
Yeah, no, look, it harkens back to the times of Ronald Reagan, where peace through strength is one of the things that President Trump talked about that Ronald Reagan projected. And I think that gives comfort to our allies. They know that we are going to work in partnership with them. One of our greatest allies is the Japanese. And we're working closely with South Koreans as well. But everybody in that region is listening to where the president's coming for him, and he is not wavering at all about his commitment to protect the United States, help protect the world, and make sure that we have the biggest, baddest military on the face of the planet with the equipment and the resources that they know in order to get it done.
Well, yeah, and that's when he said, we dominate the sky, the sea, the land, and space. Yeah. You could almost hear the hangar vibrating at that point. And he said, we must always win, and that was very refreshing too. I mean, where the goal is to win, very much Reagan-like. What's the goal? The goal is to win.
Well, I think one of the biggest applause lines is the fact that we're now taking the fight to ISIS. I mean, that place erupted with applause.
Yeah.
These are people that want to engage in the fight. They want to protect America. They're willing to roll up their sleeves and take the risk in order to get out there and protect the United States. And now they finally have a president who's right there with them and has their back. That's what. You know, they're out there by themselves, away from their family and friends, in a very tough, difficult thing. You know, Kim Jong-un, who knows what he's going to do at any given time, but there you have a president who's willing to fight for their resources, fight for their families, and fight for the United States.
Clearly. And, you know, to our viewers right now, President Trump just finishing his speech to the troops at the Yokota Air Force Base in Tokyo, Japan, where he landed approximately 30 minutes ago with the First Lady, the president there taking back to the stage with First Lady Melania Trump. We're going to stay with this.